Alright, guys. So we are on another episode of MC Anime. We are in the 13th episode of MC Anime today, and we have fellow co-host.
Hey everybody, what's up? It's Leah again. I hope you're enjoying all of these episodes and you're ready for today's episode.
And in case you don't know, Lee will bring the swag while I bring the anime knowledge that I have.
You didn't have to do that. We didn't need to do that to anybody. We've been through this.
Yeah. So
Uh,
what we're talking about today is a very particular topic about what makes a good live action movie in the terms of anime wise.
yeah. This was tough
Where was it tough?
because normally when we do our topics, it's fine. For the most part, I've seen most of the stuff we're either going to be talking about, or if not, I'm fine watching it. But live action movies is like, I don't know, it's like the third ring of hell. Like you gotta hunker down. I had to like get supplies, I had to get snacks, had to talk myself into it. And I was just like, we can do this. And then like by the third movie, I was like, I gotta get out of here, like fighting my way out. But it was fun. It
If
was
I
just
watch
very
three
traumatic.
movies, if I watch like 3 movies in 2 days and then another movie, that's pretty good.
Well, see, I messed up. I watched like one movie on Thursday. And then I watched all of them last night, like all of them yesterday. But I don't. I did it to myself. Yeah, this is a me problem. But
You
oh
were
well.
telling me that you were spreading it out. Like I'm gonna do it Thursday, then do one Friday, then do one
Well, I forgot.
Saturday.
Well, I went out on Friday because I forgot it was my friend's birthday. So Friday, I
Ooh,
lost the whole day. I just lost the whole
Friday,
day.
having a fun time.
Yeah, I went outside. I saw like live action people doing live action things. Forgot about the
Oh,
live
so,
action movies,
so
and then
you were getting really good practice for the live action discussion.
oh yeah. Yeah, unfortunately. I told them I was watching these and they were like, "Oh, good luck." Like my friends watch anime and they were just like, "All right, farewell, friend." And they just
And yet
wished me
you
luck.
knew they actually turned out really good. So
Well, yeah, like the ones we have today to talk about for good anime adaptations, those weren't the problem. I didn't like I did it to myself where I just watched like a
yeah.
little bit of the Attack on Titan and that was just bad. I rewatched Death Note. That was wrong. Shouldn't have done that to myself. It was a lot, but
Yeah.
we'll talk about it more about the trauma and the good stuff.
So the movies that we are actually discussing that we chose specifically for this episode was Gintama, the live action movie,
Ooh, ooh.
uh, Ryoumi Kenshin, I Want
Hmm.
to Pancreas, and Detective Pikachu.
Yeah, all of those movies. They're great films. Especially like so the Rorouni Kenshin one. I think is the only one on this list that actually is a series. So there's three Rorouni Kenshin movies on
Like
Netflix.
4 installments.
Is it four?
Yeah.
I thought it was three. Yeah, they're all really really good, and they do stick to the source material really well. So I loved the Ramoni Kenshin movie. I watched the first one and was super excited.
So now let's talk about Gintama.
All right, so Gintama was hilarious, and you told me that the first time we picked this topic. Like you told me earlier in the week that it was hilarious. I've watched all of like the original Gintama, like the anime,
Yeah.
um the movie took me out. Like the movie, I don't know, I don't understand how they were able to pull it off so well because Gintama has such wild like crack humor, but they did it. Like they everyone was ridiculous. Everything that was happening, I was just like this is so stupid. I love Shinpachi and like either one and it was good. It was just good all over.
And how they stayed to the original source material in Gintama was really the saving grace for the movie itself.
Oh, absolutely.
If they didn't do that and tried not to, like, for example, the ridiculousness of the characters up notch, everything going on. The costume wise actually seemed natural within the universe.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Also, one thing they did really well, which most movies don't do, is talking the fourth wall to the audience.
Oh, but that's a Gintama like
Yes,
staple. That's just a
not
part of
just
I think
yeah,
yeah.
yes. And if they didn't do that, it would actually lose a big piece of what Gintama is
Mm-hmm.
because they
Yeah.
always talk to the audience. I
Oh yeah,
they
that's their thing.
Oh yeah. If they didn't do that, it'll actually take appeal away from the anime itself. So if
Yeah,
the anime is
watching
known to do something super out of the ordinary, more
mm-hmm.
chances are not you need to do that to capture the aesthetic in the anime you're trying to do in a live action adaptation.
No, I totally agree. I think that the best thing, especially with Gintama or even like JoJo's the live action
Yeah.
one, is that you know it's ridiculous, and I think that's the thing about anime that a lot of people have
Yeah.
critiques on is that it's so wild and it's like full of these like fantasy aspects and there's like all these different aesthetics coming together, but it's still wild to a regular person who would just watch Star Wars. Like even though they watch Star Wars and they're seeing like aliens and Jedi's and all of that, watching an anime live action to them is like, what is happening? But Gintama does it really well because they make fun of it. They literally talk about how wild some of the characters look, and they're like, "Yeah, I think that's just a guy underneath a costume." And they're like, "Yeah, we're not supposed to mention that. Like, we're not supposed to say that out loud." And it seems like those that make it more comfortable, like at least someone said something about it, where it's like when they change out a character in a show, like they just change out the actress and they never say anything. Like in Fresh Prince, they changed out the moms. You're just like, "You gonna address this? Like, this is a completely different person." So I think being aware of people being kind of apprehensive or thinking that it's kind of strange is what making Tama just that much better.
Well, also another thing that Gintama did really well is the clothing on the character and the portrayal of the characters was really believable. The clothing did not look like cosplay; it looked like the character. And there's a difference
Yeah.
between the character, an actor wearing cosplay, and actually authentically looking like the character. I'm
Well,
sorry,
that's true.
you,
That's
you
true.
because the cosplay is okay. Oh boy, the cosplay look is really like a dress up of the character. Now
hmm
to actually portray a character, you need to consider, if you're going to wear a wig, make it make a extension of your wig. Don't have a wig just flopping around. It needs to be like sewed on or in a sense put on so it doesn't come off. You know,
When
if
it
you're gonna,
comes to live action wigs,
yeah,
we talked about this. I know the budgets are smaller for these movies, but they can afford to buy better wigs. These wigs look like Party City, like
yeah,
you just got them for like Halloween. They're really glossy. Why do they do that? The wigs look so shiny, and then it looks like if that person accidentally tripped, like they always do in anime. It's like if they do
yeah.
that tripping scene, that wig is gonna fly. Like it's just gonna take off and do its own thing for the day.
And
Mm-mm.
even with Gintama's character, um, let's see, Rashuku, yeah, the white hair looked genuine, and even
Mm-hmm.
the person from the alien, she looked really good too.
I mean, even like I think the thing I noticed first off with the Gintama with the movie is that of course you're introduced to Gintama, but
Yeah,
instead of them making his hair kind of like that icy blue that it shows up in the anime, they
yeah,
made it more silver. So it
yeah,
like it's not so shocking. I think I mean like they still like there was a bunch of other stuff that was
yeah,
crazy and nonsensical, but I think making his hair that silverish color and making it kind of look like it actually belonged on his head made it a lot
yeah.
better. And then they literally had like there was that
Mhm.
scene with the guy who served ramen who just had like a wig plopped on his head to pretend he wasn't bald. Like they what was bad compared to, oh, like this is
Yeah.
how they're supposed to look. So yeah, 100%.
I would like the essence they captured in Kagawa.
Yeah,
The
they did
fight
her
scene
great.
that she did, the quickness and dodging and going around in the wacky fighting style that she had was picture capturely.
I think all of the fight scenes actually,
Yeah,
and I don't know like if you've ever seen the
yeah,
videos, but there's content creators out there who'll make like TikToks, or they used to make like vines or whatever. So they make these short clips of them doing like cosplay of whatever characters like from Naruto or Dragon Ball Z, but they make
yeah,
like short little skits of their fight scenes, and they're really quick, and they have the sound effects and all
yeah,
of that, and it looks way better than what we have seen from the live action movies. And they
yeah.
had this that fighting style was perfectly shown in Gintama. So you were like, oh,
Mm.
this is a badass fight. Like they're going really fast. They're hitting shit. They're breaking walls. Like they're slashing the life out of each other. And so you're like, oh, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Rather than, and it wasn't 50 million like cuts. They weren't like doing so many edits to make the
Oh
scene
yeah.
seem faster. It looked really good.
They actually generally took the time to go to the source material, see what was going on in the fight, the escalating action to the fight, and execution of the fight is really good in that sense.
I loved it. I absolutely love it. Um, were there any other? I'm trying to think what else was good for Gintama.
Oh
I
gosh, you
think
gotta
also
do
the
you have to
story.
do
The
the other
story was
you have to
good.
do the other sidekick.
You're right. You're right. You're right.
Toro, I think is his name.
Which one?
Uh, it was the alliances with Gen yeah, Gentoki, his
Oh,
friends.
Gintoki.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the other one?
Are you talking about the like Shinsei Gume? Shinsei Gume? I can
Yeah.
never say their name. Yeah. I
Uh,
mean,
Katsuya, I think. Yeah, Katsuya.
Tetsuo.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's Katsuya. That's his real name. They bicker with each other a lot. Gintoki often treats him as an annoyance, but they have a complete trust in each other and close friends. I really think Katsuya is awesome. The scene where they're on the ship and he's like saying, "I'm not here to fight. I have no intention to fight." But yet you're here with
Yes.
a sword and you're here to fight. Where's your army? I was like, I don't have no army. Oh, so you're by yourself. That was so
all of
funny.
the all of the actors did an amazing job in the Gintama movie. I think that was like one of the few movies where I was like, everybody came to work today and they were like, we are doing this movie. No one slacked up. No one was unbelievable. I like you fully get immersed in the world and the ridiculous of what's happening from the very beginning and to the very end. And if anything, it made me want to go and watch Gintama. Um, and I was just like, I want the foolishness to continue. The
Yeah,
conversations that they have um are hilarious where they actually like I think the whole style of Gintama just works really well for these type of movies, like live action movies.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, did you also see some of the parodies that they did?
Yeah. They oh
Devil
my god,
Fruit,
they always
Luffy.
do. Yeah.
What else? What other parodies they did in the live action man? Those are other references too.
Yo, they did like Hamtaro. They kept
Yeah,
saying like Kotaro or something like that.
yeah.
I think they do Dragon Ball Z?
Yeah,
I
they
can't
did a Dragon
remember.
Ball
Yeah.
Z. Yeah, they did a Dragon Ball Z reference too.
Yeah.
The one I clearly remember is when oh, they did Valley of the Winds.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
The hoverboard and Valley of the Winds.
I freaking can't. It's like they just know what they're doing. Like they were like, why not? And I love because like even if you watch Gintama, whatever you love, like you may think you love something that they would never reference, and the whole show all the way through, because there's tons of episodes, it's like hundreds, and they hit on everything. So I love that the movie incorporated that too. So they didn't like they found a way to keep everything that made Gintama like the heart of it and
Yeah.
still keep it in the movie, but also, you got a full story out of it. Um, so did you want to move to the next movie?
Yeah.
What's our
I
next
think
one? Rorouni Kenshin.
Rorouni Kenshin.
I love Rorouni Kenshin. I'm gonna be completely honest. In the first one when it starts up, this isn't even a spoiler. Like his name is literally Rorouni Kenshin, the Batosai, the manslayer. And I don't know why I laughed, but there was a scene where these guys in an alleyway literally yelled out his name. They were like, "Be on guard. It's the Batosai." And I was like, you know what that means? And they still tried to fight him. And then there was one guy who was like, "I don't want to die. I have family. I have someone who's waiting for me. I want to live." But he kept fighting Kenshin. Like Kenshin would like just cut him and then be like, "All right, I'm leaving." And the guy would get back up and try to fight him. That scene, that was the only scene where I genuinely laughed, even though I know it's not supposed to be a comedy, but that was the one
Oh
funny
yeah.
scene. It's like 5 minutes in. But hands down, I think it's one of the better adaptations I've seen in a hot minute. Um, and it just works well. Like everybody loves samurais.
Oh yeah. And also with when it was released in 2012, it had $36 million domestically and $60 million worldwide. So it even had success overseas too. It did more overseas than it did in Japan.
Thankfully, because that's really what you need for these movies. You need them to be not only successful domestically, but internationally. It's kind of where the money's at now.
Oh yeah. And if we go back to international sales, anime is being consumed at a very large rate, and the anime industry can't keep up.
Hmm.
So, if we take that in consideration, these movies being live action, even in the smallest scale, even the few that are actually all good, get like an English adaptation or the English dubbing as well.
Right.
I think Rorouni Kenshin, because of its success, was able to get some dubbing. I think didn't it? English dubbing, or it was released.
No, yeah, I think it
Yeah,
does have an English dub to it. I watched in sub, um, because I was afraid that if I watched it in dub, kind of like what happened with people who watch Squid Games in dub, where they were like, "This is what happened?" Like in the Korean like regular like translation for English, it's
yeah.
fine. Just watching sub was fine, but I think everyone who watched dub said it was terrible. So I didn't want to mess up my viewing experience if I didn't need to.
No, I understand that. And
But
with Kenshin as a particular whole, the series is very fresh and like really is a really good depiction of samurai life.
mhm.
And how they captured the character, to me it felt like a genuine it felt genuine in the sense of characterization, and the narrative was also spot on too. What you think about the narrative?
I think the narrative actually really worked. I think it helped transition the story and kind of bring things along. Um, I find personally when it comes to anime movies, if I didn't know anything about it and I was trying to keep up with some of the ones that aren't great, that could
Yeah,
be hard. Because you're trying to take in like not only the world but the characters, what's happening to them. So a lot of things can get breezed over. I think narration also worked for Ramoni Kenshin just from the literal like the tone of the story, because it's not super bright and bubbly and beautiful and lighthearted, kind of like one of the Pokemon movies or something.
yeah.
I think narration just fits into the storytelling of it. quite
And
vividly.
also during this time, it's during the Meiji period in the like 1978, and also you have to give that this is when samurai class is like really in a decline. So it actually captures what was going on and the how samurai was still good into that point, and there were like a few the factions of it and how it was slowly declining. It really fits the period in which they were trying to write it.
Yeah. Um, and I think it also helps just because it lends to people not doing the assumption that people would just know what you're talking about or
Yeah.
understand it, like explaining what Batosai means, explaining like the Meiji era, explaining what's happening in history or in that time. Because for international audiences, even if you read the Rorouni Kenshin mangas like when you were younger, which I did, I still was like, what was happening during this time? It's not American history. It's a completely different country. So getting that kind of refresher and everything being packed together, I think it really helped.
I
I
think
never
it's a
felt out of
better
the story
samurai
from it.
movie than Gintama was. Because Gintama is just like samurai in disguise. I don't really feel like that's a definite samurai movie. It's like, nah, it's not a definite samurai movie. Kenshin is a definite samurai based anime.
Well, Gintama, they are samurai, and the way they did it was like they were samurai. Then the space people came down, and everyone was like, "Why do we need swords?" They just taught us how to travel space, and like the samurai. That's the thing about Gintama is that it's like it's such an odd thing to happen, and if it was like if space aliens came down in Rorouni Kenshin, I could totally see that being like turning into Gintama, where it's just like, okay, I guess this is regular life now. I guess since we don't need swords, like we don't have swords anymore.
Oh,
Um,
you defend yourself with guns. Never bring. You never. Oh, you never bring. Well, instead of you never bring a gun to a sword fight. No, you never bring a knife to a sword fight. You don't
a
bring a
knife
gun
to a
to a sword.
gunfight. It just kept getting to a wilder saying. I'm just like, he gonna get there. He gonna find it. Yeah, I also the like how we talked about in Gintama, the fight scenes in Rorouni Kenshin were really well done.
Yeah,
I do think like like Gintama because it's like crack humor,
yeah,
the injuries and the stabs and all of that. Some of them look kind of goofy and kind of corny, but that's also to be expected
yeah,
from whatever budget they have. But Rorouni Kenshin actually did theirs really well.
yeah.
Um, and a lot of it was super believable. And also, I just like you're like, whoa, these fight scenes and the way they had to choreograph it, like if he is one-handed or he has no hands, like his hands are bound or something, and like the way they like showed the manga fight and actually transitioned those into a live action adaptation, I thought was really really good. They were smooth.
Oh yeah. I feel the like the budget they have, they did really well with. It's an example of a limited budget doing it well with. They didn't have
Yes.
a huge budget, and in doing so, they were able to make the story with the budget they had. So that takes an actual interpretation of the script and overall pacing of the movie. I think the pacing was really good. Well,
And also, well, for Rorouni Kenshin, the one thing I can say is that since it is a four-part series, they're actually able to tell the story in a very natural way without them rushing. I think that it's kind of like an issue that can happen if you have a standalone movie from any franchise. You're trying to get all of the really important characters introduced, big scenes like done, emotional points hit, while still like transitioning from place to place or scene to scene. And that can be really hard. I think Ramona Kenshin just worked because they had it in their mind if they were gonna do multiple parts from the jump, so they did not like squish everything into one.
And also, the budget they had was $10 million.
That's insane. That's so low for all they had to do, but they still pulled it off. Honestly impressed.
Well, actually, movies and movies like Sharknado, they had like $100,000. And you know how ridiculous Sharknado is, right?
I know. I'm sorry. I'm like, yeah, let's analyze these movies, and then you just brought up Sharknado for no reason on my good Sunday. Now
Well,
I'm thinking about all the death scenes in
on the
Sharknado.
budget, I'm moving a point that the $10 million budget with Kenshin is pretty reasonable in the terms of having a budget, but for an actual movie, it's very low.
Well, what I'm saying is that when it comes to these movies, especially when it comes to art, I think in general, um, these big corporations are afraid to throw a lot of money into something that they personally haven't seen any big numbers from. So
Mhm.
I that's what I'm saying. Like them only having 10 million, like the Dragon Ball Z movie, I think had like a $30 million budget.
And they still just
Um, yeah, like they had a $30 million budget and look what happened. Look how they literally caused all of us to go to therapy. While
yeah.
Rorouni Kenshin only had 10 million and was able to not only make a great movie and do even better internationally than the DBZ live action, but they also were able to create three more movies afterwards that all are good standalone.
And if you compare it to a movie like Iron Man has a $140 million US budget. $140 million compared to $10 million. It's 14 times more what Kenshin had.
It's it's just it's interesting to see, but also I just think in retrospect it's also just the story
Yeah,
itself and how the director handled it and took care of it.
yeah.
So it, it's a
I
lot of
feel
factors.
the director's version in most of these movies is the final. It's literally the sex of the movie or not. If the director can make the movie into a good live action adaptation, then the appeal of the legacy of the live action can live on.
Hmm.
And it's like, oh, I remember the live action, or yeah, they had a live action, and then they look at it, it's like that's really well. They look at it, have good reviews, like 8.7 and all that stuff. So the quality of the movie lives on, even if people don't look at the live action adaptation. They still have that as a what we call a winning ticket they can put and boast about.
No, you're absolutely right. Like I think boasting about not just boasting about it, but
Yeah.
just having proof. Like just
Having I have reclamation that my movie that we did, or even the creator can be probably like say, I like this adaptation of my work.
yeah, claim it,
Making
which
them feel happy, at least even a brief second, is like more rewarding than you think. Because they put
hmm
so much work into making the manga and the text of the anime and the live action, just continuing success in other adaptations. Even theatrical production was made in Kenshin as well. So it goes to show you that all these different forms of the same brand that you made is really telling it in itself.
yeah. And I mean, we are getting closer to that, which I think we're kind of going into like that stage two of anime influence and like
Yeah.
integration into mainstream culture. So I'm loving to see that. I wonder what it's going to turn into and if we'll eventually get just consistently good and actually enjoyable movies, and not them being the like few gems that are shining through all the like rubbish that is being produced when they're being produced. All right.
Speaking of good
So
anime, what's introduced. I want to eat your pancreas, or let me
yes,
eat your pancreas.
I want to eat your pancreas. Now, to be noted, I did not watch this one. This is the only one on the list that I didn't get to. Um,
Did you
and
crash?
instead,
Just what was your downfall?
yeah, it was my downfall. I messed up. I like watched Death Note for no reason. I was doing a comparison, and then I didn't get to I want to eat your pancreas. But I do I do have some like I guess points on it that I saw from other people talking on it. But do you want to tell them basically the plot of it since you did watch it?
Okay, so the plot of I want to eat your pancreas. Um, we are introduced to someone having a pancreatic cancer, and someone finds out in her uh, coexistence disease journal that she has pancreatic cancer. But the thing is, the two characters are totally separate in popularity. She, one having the cancer, is Papa in the school, while he's just a nobody. So she takes him and explores the secret with him and only tells him and not tell anyone else at the school.
Hmm.
So his relationship with her is a really weird dynamic. What do you think of that?
For the movie itself. I
Yeah,
mean,
you're the only one at school that knows that uh
I don't even
this
think it's
person
just
has
like
pancreatic cancer, and they don't want anyone else to know. Even the best friend Kikyo doesn't know.
yeah, like I think the thing that makes it that much harder is because she told it to like the most introverted, quiet guy at the school because they're completely different in their popularities. Like she's
Yeah,
like, you know, she's got friends, she's well known, people think she's beautiful. And then he's the quiet guy who's kind of like indecisive. And so him getting this information, like one, probably just being shocked that this girl is talking to him
yeah,
and actually sharing something about herself that's really secretive, but
yeah,
also now that he can't talk to anyone about it. But it's
yeah,
also a really heavy secret to have because it's like she's dying, she's sick,
yeah.
and it's you feel it's a feeling of powerlessness, but also like how does he handle that? How do you talk to someone? You can't talk to anyone, so you just I don't know. You guys just sit there.
Oh
You
yeah.
just sit there with that trauma. you just
Yeah.
you trauma bond. I don't know.
Haruki comes across a book in the hospital waiting room. He soon discovers it's a diary kept by his very popular classmate Sakura, who reveals that she's secretly suffering from a fatal pancreatic illness. Despite this, Sakura intends to maintain a normal school life and thus is drawn to Teruyuki due to his relatively unfazed reaction to her condition. They begin to spend time together and become friends.
Yeah, and it's just for people to know if you are going to watch it, or watch the anime, they are both tearjerkers. I don't think you didn't cry, Mason.
No,
You
I love
messaged
it.
me. I was like at the gym, like having a good old day. I'm just like, yeah, fitness, trying to live long. And then he messages me, and he was just like, not a single tear. Not even a thug tear. Like I was like, damn, like you couldn't pour one out for the homie. It was just nothing.
It's
And I'm
good.
just
I
like,
love
well,
them. I love the actors. I mean, I watched Your Lie in April and didn't have the same. I had the same reaction too. I love the series. It was good, done well.
I diagnosed it as just you I don't know, it's just your dislike of slice of life, like we talked about in the last episode. And I told you this, I was like, look, I guess it's just not your genre, man. It's like
Okay, there was
even
one.
though it's super sad, you were just like, eh.
Okay, you know what got me was Conrad. Conrad got me. Okay,
Conrad is just that is made to hurt you. Like whatever
what
you're
got me
doing,
more? That got me tearing up. Okay,
yeah. If
and I
you're
don't get
having like a
teared up
good time
too
in your
much.
life, don't watch it. but no, everyone so there's a series for I want to eat your pancreas, or let me eat your pancreas, for the 2017 live action. But there is
Yeah,
also an anime movie that they made as well in like 2018 called I Want to Eat Your Pancreas,
yeah.
which is, in the same style as the actual anime. And I
Hmm.
heard both were good. I think definitely for anime fans, you'll probably prefer the anime movie, because you're not switching mediums, you're not switching
Yeah.
between artistic styles, but both hold up. Like, both are really good. So I know I'm gonna watch it and cry because uh
Mm.
I that's just what's probably gonna happen. It's
Yeah.
just gonna be really sad watching this girl try and live like every day as if she doesn't have this very terrible disease or this terrible
Yeah.
affliction, and then watching them become closer as friends. It's like knowing the ending to a book, but you're still reading
Oh
it.
yeah. And if for anyone that doesn't know what the title means, I want to eat your pancreas. It's
Don't tell
basically
them. Don't tell them. Don't tell
Sakura's
them.
metaphor. It's a metaphor.
You have to. No, it
Yeah.
is. Look. When I know exactly, like, the part that really gets people.
Yeah.
So once y'all get there and then it all comes together, so don't ruin it for them. Let them hurt. Nathan, I know you did
It's
not.
a
I know
metaphor.
you made
So
it through the day. Like, you enjoyed the rest of your day just chatting, having a great time in the artist alley. But let these people feel pain. And
I watched that like
did
days
you watch it?
before the
Oh yeah,
artist
that's true.
alley.
Oh yeah, see, you're perfectly fine. See, this man, different, completely built different. Meanwhile, I know I'm going to cry, so
And
it
now
is
I
what
need
it
to see
is.
the video of you tearing up.
That's so messed up, but honestly true. Um, and I did hear, like, I know that the acting in the movie is actually really good. Like, the acting in the movie I heard was pretty decent, like, from all the characters.
Yeah.
Um, and since you watched it,
Yeah.
I saw this comment floating through like forums and
Mm,
chats and stuff a lot for it, but they were
mm,
saying that the main thing that they didn't like, because these are people who watch the anime, or watch the movie, is
mm.
that the in the live action, the main guy, not gonna sit here and lie and say I know his name. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, they were just saying that his character was, I guess the same all the way through. Takumi, I don't know. Um, that, like, the way he started out, and then you kind of see him open up a little bit in the middle when they're like getting closer to each other, and then at the end, they're like, nah, he's still pretty much the same. Did you see that when you watched it? Did you think the character
Oh, okay.
changed at
So
all?
he's pretty much static through a lot of the movie, except for the end when he's actually fulfilling the promises that he promised to Sakura.
Okay,
He
okay,
actually
okay.
comes through to the promises and actually. And I don't want to get into detail about the promises that he makes to Sakura because the promises that he makes, you see in the end being fulfilled.
Okay, perfect. All right. That was just the
And
one thing I was just like,
yeah,
huh, I wonder.
it's basically that transformation at the end that you see. You see the revelation at the end instead of the middle or the beginning for his character.
Got you. Okay.
And the way they tell the story in the movie is a flashback of his experiences with Sakura. And he's coming back to the school to at the same library where Sakura wanted to be a library committee with him to just because
Mm-hmm.
of just to be with him to talk about all these things. They go on a trip, they plan different things, and actually, in some cases, perform the bucket list. So you see different aspects and how
Okay.
he was able to give comfort to her in this situation and not quote unquote not be a boyfriend or a friend, just be the Mr. Plain guy. What
Hmm.
does she call him? Oh gosh,
What's it called? Like Mr. Ordinary or
Mr.
something?
Yeah, plain no, Mr. Plain, Mr. Wannabe, or yeah, stuff like that. He keeps calling him Mr. something else. And also, an important note, um, Haruki does not call her by her surname. They do the last name throughout the movie.
Okay.
And that has significance, and you need to watch it to see why it's significant.
Mhm.
So,
All right. I mean, it sounds like a really good watch. Just as a standalone, I feel like I think also because it is
and
a slice of
yeah,
life film, you can actually just watch it without feeling like you need to know the source material
I feel like it's a
because
better Fallen Night Stars, to be honest. It's a better version of Fallen Night Stars. It's even better.
wild.
Well,
All
okay,
right.
Fallen
I
Night
haven't
Stars
seen
is
no,
good.
like I haven't seen it, so I'm not arguing it. I'm just saying personally for me, I see Fault in Our Stars and I cried all the way through that. So if like Let Me Eat Your
Even
Pancreas
cried
or
to it,
Wanna Eat Your Pancreas, yeah. If I
but just
cry through that one,
yeah.
all right.
Well, if you cry, send me a crying emoji.
I got you. All right, and then the last one on our list is
Detective
Detective
Pikachu.
Pikachu,
Oh,
which is I love it. I love that movie.
I can't hands down love it. It's
Like,
gosh, there's so much to talk about. Like they took the video game Detective Pikachu, put it into a live action. So they basically took the waters and made a video game into the live action adaptation. Which they didn't go straight to an anime, it was just a video game.
yeah,
So in that sense, a lot of times if that's the first time there's been a second adaptation like that, and you portray it really well, then the appeal and the audience base to that second adaptation can be more drawn to it. This is why Harry Potter did so well because of that reason.
well, I mean,
The
Harry
book,
Potter just went from the books just straight to the movies. Like, yeah,
yes,
they didn't make like a series or anything. And honestly, for Harry Potter,
yeah,
I think it plays out better just being movies because also the
yeah,
movies aren't short. Like we're not these aren't
yeah,
an hour and 20 minutes. Like they're you don't sit down. You take a day off if you're gonna watch Harry Potter.
yeah.
Um,
But with
no,
Detective
but
Pikachu, we have that like it was meant for a movie medium,
hmm
definitely. And the story of trying to find the missing what's it? They're trying to find the missing father, I think.
yeah. So Ryan Reynolds goes missing, and like all they have is like I don't know some video of the crash and his Pikachu that for some reason can now also talk talk human speak and has no actual memory of what really happened. And I loved it. I mean, I like the way they set it up, and I think the best part about it is that they established from the beginning because also everyone knows what freaking Pokemon is, so they didn't have to
Yeah,
explain to you what a Pokemon is.
yeah,
Um, they also like they can do this huge world and then have a few lines where they explain stuff like this is Pokemon City, this is how it was founded, like do these quick um like expositions and then everything else you just get on into it and I
yeah.
think they did that really well in the first like 10-15 minutes of the movie,
Mhm.
so you knew who your characters were, what the problem was, they gave us a little bit of action, and then we got into Pokemon. Like he left his small town, so we didn't have to sit there and dilly dally there with characters that we probably weren't going to see again, and we got straight to Pokemon City. I loved it.
Ace Detective Harry Gordon goes mysteriously missing, promoting his 21-year-old son, Tim, to find out what happened. Aiding in the investigation is Harry's former Pokemon partner, wisecracking, adorable, super aloof Detective Pikachu. Finding
Hmm.
that they are uniquely equipped to work together, as Tim is the only human can talk with Pikachu.
They join
Yeah,
forces to unravel the table mystery.
yeah. It's a good watch. I think it's fun. The
Yeah.
main appeal of it is that everyone can watch it. It didn't end
Mhm.
up being one of those movies or adaptations where you're like, oh, this is just for kids. Um, Even though, yes, it is definitely marketed to kids. They didn't have like a bunch of bad cuss words or anything or wild themes showing up, but adults who grew up with Pokemon and all the people who did what was it, Pokemon Go?
Yeah.
Was that the game? Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, like all of that was like it brought people together. So it has a very inclusive culture. So even the people who say like, oh, anime is for kids, still went and saw the movie, like the Detective Pikachu movie, and
Yeah.
thought it was great and gave it rave reviews. And I think that kind of lends a good hand in favor of more well-made anime movies. Like the
Yeah.
better the reception to something like this, which was a standalone. I think they're making a second one. I believe they're making a second one, but as a standalone, it wrapped itself up, and we can just keep it pushing. Everyone
And
loves
I
it. Now we
also
can get more.
feel with the actual depiction of the Pokemon in real
Mm-hmm.
life was spectacular. I loved it.
Because they gave them a budget. Like they gave them a budget, and also like they build Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds, even in
Yeah.
even in his Deadpool movies, they are not going to give him like um a bad movie intentionally. They're not going to
Yeah.
put him in something where he's like, this looks like crap. So I love that the budget was like allowed for you to really get into it. Like what was it? Uh when the mountains were actually Pokemon and they
Yeah.
had that whole action. That was so good. Like
Yeah.
that was one of the moments where I was like, dang, I wish I would have saw this in like IMAX or 3D or something. I bet this would have looked dope. Like kid me was losing her mind. I was like, gotta catch a ball. And like I'm just so excited watching the
Mhm.
movie because everything looked realistic. Like
Yeah.
it didn't look silly. Everything looked good.
And this movie, if it had a low budget, the appeal of it would actually be less. This is one of those movies that the $150 million budget, like it actually had a pretty good sized budget compared to others. The reason why is because of so much to do with the Pokemon and the scale of the city. They had
Hmm.
to portray it. They had to get it together to even do it. That's what I really like.
Well, I mean, so
They had,
for
but also Pokemon had a really good recognition in the world already. Pokemon's the second largest franchise. No, Pokemon is the largest franchise in the world.
yes,
Hello Kitty's the second.
yes. But I mean,
So
I think you also have to lend a hand to the fact that
yeah,
one of the things that makes these stories good, like in all the ones that we have talked about. So like
yeah,
Let Me Eat Your Pancreas, they could stay to the source material and didn't have to do too much in regards of
yeah,
adaptation. But Detective Pikachu, you already had the foundations of what makes Pokemon
mhm,
great. And because we don't need to see Ash out there doing the same thing he's
yeah,
been doing for like 25 years. We're watching it from like a different story point, but with all the elements that we
yeah,
know and love. So it doesn't feel like a cheap knockoff, but at the same time, it feels fresh. And I
yeah,
think Gintama did that well because the Gintama is all about all basically just side quests. If you're watching Gintama, you're just watching someone go through side quests, and then
yeah,
like every now and then the main story comes up. And then even with Rorouni Kenshin, there is a lot of like side stories, even in the
yeah,
manga, of different characters. And I think it's just a good way to work around
yeah,
without having fans be like, this isn't how the manga went, like avoiding that, or avoiding them complaining it's not exactly like the anime by focusing on,
yeah,
this different main guy. But again, it's still like it's a young boy who got his first Pokemon that's a Pikachu, and they're going on these adventures together. And then he has his sidekicks, which like completely reflect from what we know with Pokemon, with Ash and Pikachu, and how he started his journey. And an absent father. They kept that too. Like, who
Yeah.
is Ash's father? I don't know.
Well,
And then they
apparently
started.
Giovanni is
Is
said to be his father in the conspiracy theories.
These are the internet videos that I need to watch. I know we have global warming to worry about, folks, but let's figure out who the father is, Maury
Giovanni is
style.
probably the best case I've saw, just because of how absent he is and all that
Yes. Oh my God. Wonderful. Now I can get into that today once we get off this call. Um, yeah, but I absolutely I think the way they did it in Detective Pikachu, and they didn't
Well, they also captured the game too.
yes.
They absolutely captured the game and the feeling in the people that played it. They didn't stray away from the storyline. They did the storyline, even though it was 2 hours. The
Mm-hmm.
portrayal that they did was really good. The pacing felt nice. It didn't feel like it needed an extra hour to like give it way over the edge. They kept it at 2 hours, which is
Yeah.
really impressive.
They kept it at 2 hours, and
Yeah,
again, it could just be a standalone movie, even if they make a second one.
yeah,
Like if they make a second one, I think Pokemon is probably the greatest pick in regards to stories. If you wanted to pick an anime story where you didn't have to worry about if we decided to do a time skip, like I think the next
yeah,
one's gonna be like a time skip when he's older. Um, our main character from this one, like I think Pokemon allows for that because one, we have
yeah.
so many different games where you're doing different characters. It's been around forever, so all the fan art, people making their own like original characters, and then
And
it's Pokemon. Like
also,
who
they
the
also
who the
had
frick
source
doesn't like this?
material. Like Pokemon live action was a concept back in the early 2000s and 90s when they did commercials.
Yeah.
And
Oh
so
no,
when
Pokemon's
you
just so much fun.
unravel the commercial base, they actually had live action depictions of Pokemon in the commercials. So
Yeah.
they had something to reference to gauge the live action depiction of the Pokemon, which I think they did really well. I really like the Charizard scene. What do you think?
Oh, I absolutely loved like I love Charizard, and so seeing again, like they just did so good on the like special effects and making the Pokemon look realistic.
Yeah,
Like the CGI team, like kudos to them. They did an amazing job. And it completely paid off. Like even the
yeah.
name Pokemon itself brings people in, but watching them bring some of your favorite Pokemon to life and seeing them do their moves. Like I freaking love Charizard. I was like, yes,
And it's
turn it
trying to
down.
fly and there's a chain on it. Oh my gosh.
Yes, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And it reminded me of when I first started watching Pokemon and you would see Ash in the group, like Misty and Brock, that when they encounter these new Pokemon or these different ones,
Yeah.
and then put like having the Pokédex so you find out what's going on. Like that's how it felt when I was watching Detective Pikachu. I was
Oh
like,
yeah.
I'm getting the same feelings of excitement where I'm just like, oh, yo, it's here. Oh, no. Like every single time, I was just like, another one. Even though I knew exactly what I was watching, I was still
Yeah.
excited the whole way through.
And I've really liked Pikachu being terrified of the Charizard.
What
Oh my
happened?
gosh. Okay, so Pikachu was in the cage with Charizard, and Pikachu was running for his life, and the Charizard was trying to fight it.
Yes. I also like the Mr.
Oh,
Mime scene where
oh
they were like
gosh.
literally like I forgot what they're gonna like waterboard
Oh,
or like electrocute him. They were gonna do something to Mr. Mime to get him to talk, and I thought that was the funniest. Like it was just funny for the sake of being funny. It was like we don't have to even explain it. It's just funny.
like
It's
Mr.
like
Mime. Oh my gosh, they captured what
they
Mr.
captured
Mime
him.
was.
Yeah.
The invisible box. Oh,
Put them in a box, made them like they were like, we gonna get some answers. I thought it was so funny, and I think what made it funny as well is that when it comes to Pokemon, that is one of the animes where I could be like, even though people want to say they say if they want to say it's anime is just for kids, like Pokemon's for everyone. So seeing kind of like adult humor mixed in a fun way and in a like
Yeah.
actually amusing way into the movie made it so much better. So it wasn't just like stuff that kids would enjoy. They didn't have like any songs going on. Um, they were able to kind of bridge all the different generations who have loved Pokemon and make something for all of them.
Well,
So
Pikachu is also a nice family movie too.
yeah, like like I can literally put it on for like my nephews and nieces, and they will sit there and watch the whole way through, and they get just as excited as I think we did when we were younger watching Pokemon. Like they argue over which Pokemons are the best, all of that. So I'm just like, yes, yes,
So,
growing little nerds.
would you show Detective Pikachu to your children if you had any?
Oh, absolutely, I would. Like
How about
it,
the
I think.
games? Would you get them involved in the games too?
Oh yeah, for sure. I already know that whenever I end up having kids, like I'm not gonna be that mom that names her kid like after an anime character. Like I don't
Well,
want my kid to like get bullied. Like I want to give them a chance, but at the same time, I'm definitely gonna introduce them into the stuff that I love because it's how can you not bond over like awesome fight scenes and these cool ass creatures and then playing the games and then they can tell me where they're at or if they like can't beat like another trainer. I'm like, give mama the controls. Like, I got this. I'm absolutely gonna do it.
to gauge the success of Detective Pikachu, $150 million budget
It
put
wasn't
on
almost
about half a
500.
million dollars.
Yeah,
Five
I was about
hundred
to say, I was
million
like
dollars.
500 million overall. They made their money like 3 times over. I love it.
So, but I feel like the budget they had was
Oh,
sizable to do it. Because if they didn't have a lower budget than that, I don't think they would be able to do it justice. I really
mm-mm.
think the budget saved them. You
It
can't.
absolutely
It's
saved them.
really hard for me to tell me that they could do the same thing with a low budget. There's no way you can do Pokemon with a low budget like that. There's no
No, you
way
can't.
$10 million
Now,
can make Pokemon good.
yeah, now, so we've gone over all of these films, and we're at the part now where we've talked about why we've liked all of them, and there has been a lot of overlapping theories. So
Yeah.
I would say, if you had to choose, what are the top 3 things that you think are needed to make a good live action movie?
Well, between United States and Japan, the differences between live actions, Japan delivers the narrative, United States delivers the aesthetics, but they fail in the narrative. Japan
Mhm.
tries to deliver the appearance and they fail in the aesthetics. So you the two things for an anime that you need a really good narrative. You need to try to stick to the source material if possible. You need to set the pacing up so everything sets its place and feels natural. But you also have to make it feel original, feel like the original source in some capacity. If you're not nailing the aesthetics, then you're nailing the acting with it too. Like with Let Me Eat Your Pancreas, they didn't necessarily have the original actors from the anime, but they scored everything through the acting, and the actors that they chose did really well to perceive the plot.
Mhm.
So if you're gonna it's basically that director's choice. Do we they if you want to, let's see, do we stay with the original look of the anime, or do we go with actors that don't necessarily look like the anime characters, but really good choices to do it? You know?
Right.
And yes, I'm going to bring up Ghost in the Shell. Ghost in the Shell, if you think it's a standalone movie, it's okay.
Mhm.
A standalone, if it wasn't an anime adaptation from a live action, it's okay. It's a decent sci-fi movie. That's not the question. The issue. The issue is the narrative of the story. They messed it up. They butchered the narrative, and in doing so, it created a backlash in the anime community of Ghost in the Shell. Like Hollywood did really good on the aesthetics, but they failed on the narrative. That is the big turning point that needs to be considered in anime. You know?
No, I'm agreed. So what? So you would say aesthetic wise, are you saying that the characters need to look like the characters is one of the things that are needed for an anime adaptation?
Aesthetics or capturing the actors playing the character.
Okay.
The aesthetics is two different things. Aesthetics is well they're acting and they capture the character really well. Or like Gintama,
Hmm.
everything was spot on. The aesthetics was spot on. The acting was spot on. It looked like the anime into the live action adaptation. So there's different ways that directors use it. If directors choose to keep, let's say, they tried to keep an actor's natural hair color. That's a
Hmm.
director's choice in doing that. But you also have to keep in mind if you do that, then you're going to have criticism of them not looking like the character.
Okay.
But
So.
you can overcome that criticism by having the
Hmm.
character, having them be really well done and acting out the character and acting out the expressions and being just like the character.
Okay. So.
So
So
that is,
capturing the
yeah,
heart of the story and the characters.
yeah.
Um,
You have
I'm
to
guessing also
capture
budget.
budget. Okay, you have to have at least more budget. It's possible with 10 million. Now we're not. Let me give you this: most independent movies are mostly like C rated. If most of the live actions that we see is like the movies, there's you know that's really the movie was really cheap, and a lot of times in Japan they try to do they try to capture the aesthetics. It just looks so cringy.
No,
Like Attack
I'm
Titan,
not.
you
I'm
can't
not.
you can't tell me that you can't defend that it's actually a good live action adaptation of Attack on Titan. I'm
Hmm.
sorry. Like they failed to even achieve the aesthetics, and they did so well in on the narrative. It didn't matter
Okay.
that the narrative was really good. You can't get past the aesthetics. If you're going to list the aesthetics over, you have to find the balance between the aesthetics and the narration. You have to find that balance. If you do really good in one, but then and the other is really bad, it's
Yeah.
going to show in the movie, regardless of who's watching it. And especially the anime fan base, they really critique. If it looks like aesthetics are bad,
Hmm.
they're going to critique you. If the narration's bad, they're going to like you butchered this in the narration.
All right. I mean, when I think of my top three, funding for sure is a absolute like top one because if you don't have the money,
Yeah,
you're not making the right story.
yeah,
I also think the story that they choose, um, because
it's
there is
very
a very
important.
thin line for anime fans. We are like the reason why anime works in its like drawn form and why these characters have these eccentric looks or these skills or these techniques and everything, and also them being able to explain what it is they're doing,
Yeah,
even if it's a paragraph long. It works in written form and then when it's drawn. And even in
yeah,
anime series, it works out. But for movies, I think if there's so much that has to be explained, like One Piece as a movie, you would have to do just one of the arcs. You couldn't
yeah,
do every single arc that's in One Piece because if it takes the show's creator and the originator hundreds of thousands of episodes just for them to tell this one story as a whole, like this whole overarching
yeah.
story, you're not going to be able to fit that within an hour and a half or 2 hours. So I think picking the right story is the
Yeah.
most essential thing. What can you translate or what can you make an adaptation to that looks good, that makes sense, and that you don't have to either try and just get the shots
Yeah.
and scenes that were the ones that resonated with the fans the most. Um, and like lose the heart of it, because you can have all those scenes in a movie and we've seen it, like I think Dragon Ball Z, the live action, and Death Note are good examples of how
Not
they
to do.
had the key elements that were there, like the key
Yeah.
things that people love about it, but they also changed them because
Yeah.
they thought it would make more sense, and they
Director.
shouldn't have done that.
Yeah. Director's cut or director's vision is also very heavily influenced in the movie.
Hmm.
That's why I feel that Assassination Classroom did really well. They did the part like right at the end of mid exams, and then the second movie is graduation.
Yeah.
So they chose specifically the story that they wanted to fit within the narration that and the time they had,
Yeah.
and
So
that's really, I think that's probably the best thing about anime. If
mhm.
you want to capture a movie, then typically, if it's 4 seasons, you, you have to capture the first season, the second season, third season, and fourth season as a separate movie. That's the issue of the pacing if you try to cram it all in once. That's what the Avatar: The
Well,
Last Airbender did so bad.
no, it did bad for a lot of reasons, but
Yeah, but one reason is the pacing was so too fast.
well, that's what I'm saying. You have to pick the
Yeah.
right story. I think you're able to do these shows, or do these movies without worrying so much about how long it is, as long as you're
Yeah.
picking a portion of the story to tell. If you're picking a story that some of the greatest characters, the most loved characters that people in the anime community want to see on screen, if they don't show up till way later in the anime or in
Yeah.
a different part than the story that you're telling, don't choose that one. Like, just don't. Because that's what doesn't make sense for DBZ. DBZ has plenty of enemies in different arcs and different storylines that they could have picked a better one than the one that they did. But then they're trying to cram so much in there, and it was just really bad pacing. Really, really
Yeah.
bad. So finding the right story with the
Yeah.
right thing, and choosing the right scenes, I think, I'm thinking those are going to be my top three. Naturally, I think they'll get better since we're getting more people
Yeah.
of our age being in the entertainment industry. So
Yeah.
we're having a bit more influence than it just being
Yeah.
TV execs or movie execs, just like whatever makes money. Because Attack on Titan is a great anime.
Oh, yeah.
Trash in the movies. Like the live action, even though
Yeah.
the Japanese one was made, trash. Just bad. Just absolutely bad.
And I can't even I can't even see those Titans being any good because it's just, oh, the CGI. The Japan really has bad doesn't really have good CGI as it is, and even them having even more of a limited budget is just they just have a lot of pitfalls in the live action industry in Japan. I it's more pitfalls in the United States. I'm sorry, but like most of the bad live actions have been produced. They have been produced by United States, but they have been the reason why they didn't do well is because of a totally different reason. Japan was literally low budget and CGI, and that's how they're limited in producing live action. Now they can make great stories; it just has to take a lot of work to do it. You know.
Yeah.
And also one more thing about another aspect. You cannot make a movie in an hour. I'm sorry.
you need at least an hour and a half to 2 hours to talk about some of this anime. You need at least a good length film to discuss everything in depth. And if you had to go to 3 hours to really capture it, then you can do that, but you have
No,
to do it really well. If
no.
you go to 3 hours in an anime live action movie, you have to do really well with the pacing of the story.
Okay. Well, one, most of the movies that are live action movies, they're about 2 hours
Yeah.
long. Like they're two.
Yes.
I think, if I'm being perfectly honest, because they don't know exactly how to tell the story, the 2 hours
Yeah.
go way longer than it should. Like the bad live action movies that are out there, um, watching them feels like it takes forever because you're just like, okay, so now this is happening, and you want it to be done. Like you do not want to
Yeah.
keep going with this. So like I don't know if you ever like I'm sure you I don't know. There's one called Hot Gimmick that came out
Mm.
in the early 2000s, and it's just basically the traditional like Wattpad story of a girl whose sister has like a secret that she has like gotten pregnant or something. Somehow this loser guy who goes to their school finds out about it, but it's a big thing that they can't talk about. So he makes the sister like agree to be like essentially his slave or whatever. Like she has to do whatever he says, so he won't tell the secret. They made that a live action one, and it is trash. And it takes so long for it to be done. And it's like you're just like, dude, okay, like the manga, anime, whatever was okay, but watching a 2 hour film where you're just not liking any of it, I think if you make it 3 hours, it would be unbearable.
Yeah.
Like people would
So yeah, and the 2 hours in the movie industry is pretty standard as a whole. So if they hit the 2 hour mark, you should have enough time to explain the story and pace it out to fit the narrative.
yeah, an hour and a half I think
It's a
would be
little bit. I think it's more rushed.
yeah, I mean there's a lot to incorporate
Yeah.
regardless of the story you pick. So yeah, I think 2 hours, there's a bunch of movies out now that are 2 hours. It's more common to watch a 2 hour movie nowadays. So
Yeah.
I'd lend to that, but an hour or 3 hours just is
Yeah.
a idea.
And this concludes the 13th episode of MC Anime.
Whoop, whoop.
We talked about what makes a good live action with Gintama, Rorouni Kenshin, Want to Eat Your Pancreas, and Detective Pikachu. And that's basically our closing marks. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode, okay?
Thank you guys. We'll talk to you later.